Hello, everybody. We are just letting people into the room at the moment. People are signing up as we speak and will be coming in bit by bit. So we've put you all on mute. And so we'll get going in a moment, but I'll just chat for a little bit as a few more people are coming into the room. So thanks very much for joining us and being part of this. As you can see, there are lots of windows here. We've just taken the choice that the reason that we're doing these is really just part of the Silicon South network, and that we want this and you to be part of the network. So rather than doing this as a webinar where it's just a few people who are talking at the head, it's for everybody to be involved, and you're very welcome. So and it may mean that I might pick on one or two of you if there are questions which I think you might have something that you could add to it, for those of you who I know. Oh, hello, Rebecca. Haven't seen you for a long time. And so, yeah, so that's the plan. This is the second in our Bring Your Own Lunch series. So maybe we could just start by asking, has anyone actually brought their own lunch? I'm going to start off. I brought a lunch. This is mine. Looks rather nice. It wasn't. To be honest, I'm feeling slightly miffed in so much as I had a perfect plan of a falafel and hummus with a salad, and maybe some pita bread. My kids ate all the falafel, so I've had to resign myself to a cheese salad. So it's okay, but it's not the kind of premium lunch that I was after. So hands up, anyone else who's got lunch with them?
Yours sounds a lot of effort, Anthony. I'm on a baby bell, if I'm honest.
Okay, you got a baby bell. All sun bites. Okay, that's good.
I couldn't resist. I ate mine. I tried. Okay. I held off for about 10 minutes, but it's gone.
All right. Okay. Well, we might bring this theme back for our. We're not going to do one next week because we've got the we're co-hosting with the Digital Growth Hub the Digital Week. Loads of great stuff. If you haven't seen it, have a look at the Dorset Growth Hub on their Digital Week website. There are lots of really interesting events happening. So we're not going to be doing this next Friday. I'm hosting something on Wednesday. Megan's hosting a couple of things on Monday and Tuesday. So we've got three speakers today. I'll come on to those, but we thought one last thing before we get cracking. There's been a bit of stuff on LinkedIn recently about people feeling that they've had a touch of webinar fatigue. Maybe there's a bit too much Zooming. Maybe there's not enough interest of stuff which is going on. So there are two things that we thought we could do. One is we can change the camera setting. Yeah, see? But I don't think that's actually that interesting. The other thing is we're going to have a competition. So today we are talking about growth, clients. Where are our clients? What's the impact of working in lockdown? What does this mean for the future? And part of that is looking about further afield where we might go. And I've got a feeling that we're going to be talking about different places, different countries, opportunities further afield. So the competition today is just make a note every time you hear somebody mention a country. Helen, do you want to share that screen? There are prizes. We have prizes. So we're going to give away one of these books. You can choose which book you like. And so every time a country is mentioned, take a note of it. And you just have to tell us at the end of the session how many countries have been mentioned. We don't know. We're going to do our best to try and keep on top of it. We might be wrong. You're not allowed to sue us, but we will do our best to come up with the right answer. And you will have a choice of one of your books, and we'll get that sent over to you. So just take a note. Every time you hear a country, note it down, and we'll ask for the number at the end. Thank you, Helen. Right, so today we are going to be talking about new business prospects in a socially distanced world. So who are our clients? Where are they? What's the future of socially distanced new business? I mean, we don't know how long this is going to last for, but I think some of the things which have happened have been really interesting. And it's going to be very interesting to hear about what the prospects are. So I am joined today, and I have got Joe Crutcher from 1000 Monkeys, and Rich Strachan from Three Sided Cube, and Darren Mooney from Global. So maybe I could start. Joe, can I start, just ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about 1000 Monkeys? and
Oh,
also
hi.
kind of where you work, kind of where your clients are, what sort of people you work with.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So yeah, Joanna, Crutcher, I'm a client relations manager at 1,000 Monkeys, so pretty self-explanatory, but I do all the commercial side of things in the new business as well. We're a persuasive writing agency, so cover things like headlines, tone of voice, web content, and also deliver workshops. The majority of our clients are actually based in and around the UK. We do work with some international companies like Siemens, but not with their German office, and also other food companies like Sackler, so getting involved with the Italian side of things. But yeah, a lot of what we've been doing already has just been remote working rather than seeing clients face to face on a regular basis. But that has made a few changes with lockdown. But yeah, so
Okay,
was that the
thank
question?
you.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great. Rich, let me move on to you.
Yeah, so I'm Rich. I'm the MD at Three-Sided Cube. Our ethos is tech for good, so we've got quite a mission-based business. What we basically do is deliver software, and it's software with a purpose. So the aim is to have a positive impact on millions of people's lives, and we do have some success doing that. So our clients are literally all over the globe. We're in, last count was 87 different countries. A lot of that comes through our work with the International Red Cross and also the World Resource Institute. So we've got apps in Venezuela and New Zealand and Nigeria and all across the Caribbean, as well as domestically. We're obviously in the UK, and we've got quite a big presence in the States. So currently got, I think it's 4 US clients, and they help us deliver the kind of mission around the world. So yeah, sun never sets on Three-Sided Cube, as we like to say.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rich. Darren.
Hiya, morning everyone. My agency has been around for about 19 years now. We kind of specialise in financial services and the food and hospitality industry. Our clients range nationally and internationally across Europe, going into Dubai and also America. We deliver brand communications, always with a creative angle, making sure that actually whatever we deliver is engaged. And you know, a lot of what we do is internal communication. So we're kind of trying to communicate to an audience that sometimes isn't that responsive. So that's when you have to get the creative ideas out to get people really fundamentally engaged with the message that the client's trying to get across. So.
Fantastic. So before I launch in, can I just say one last thing? We're going to have time we're going to speak for half an hour. I would like to bring some questions in from you guys. So please use the group chat for any questions which might emerge as we go along. And then at 1:45, we're going to break out into a little breakout session. And then, so we'll have 10-15 minutes just to talk in smaller groups. And then we'll come back for the kind of wrap up and the results of the competition. So, Rich, can I start with you? Have you found clients have responded to things recently? Have things changed? What have been the biggest challenges that you've had working with clients?
So, I mean, it's been really interesting for us. It's been kind of so when we first went into lockdown and the you know, the whole COVID thing was kicking off, we'd just sort of set all our targets for the next financial year, had big plans, we were hoping to grow again, and obviously we were thinking, Christ, this is gonna stymie that a little bit, and this is gonna hold us off. We were actually planning on setting up in the US in July as well, so it's sort of put the kibosh on that, and we really reduced down all of our kind of lead and then our new biz metrics, because we just thought that we can only forget the year. Let's just see where we are in 3 months at the moment, because we just don't know what we're going to be doing. So we kind of we decided pretty arbitrarily. We were like, let's just take it all down to 25% of what we were expecting, and you know, that would be good. We'll take that where we are now. And weirdly, we've actually seen an increase from what we had predicted we would do. So forget the 25%, we've been doing like 120% of what we had originally planned to do from a marketing point of view. So that's at the front end, sharp end of our new biz funnel, if you like, is that lead generation part. So that's good news, but it was a bit surprising. I think part of it is the market we're in. So a lot of our clients, they are charities, they are NGOs, and they're responding to the issue. So we saw an uplift there, and we thought, well, that was quite lucky. But we've continued to see across the board, actually, that uptick in inquiries. So that's been really, really good to see. But then we were like, okay, so how's conversion going to work? Is this just because people now have some time on their hands, so they're going to start putting out inquiries to things? And how is it going to affect our closure rate for the business that we had coming in already? So the stuff that was in the pipeline. And certainly to start with, getting people to actually sign off on those budgets that we had nearly got there, we saw a pause in that. Certainly throughout kind of March and April, asking people to sign off big budgets, everyone was very well-meaning, but then when it actually got to the procurement guys and the finance guys that actually had to sign on the dotted line, they were a bit more circumspect about it. But actually since then, got a bit constipated around kind of March, April time. April and May, that all started to free up a bit, and it's just carried on. So I think we've done better out of it than I think we could have expected, really. And I think a chunk of that, though, we were very bullish about what we should do in terms of spend and in terms of how we should react to that. So we actually we upped our marketing spend in some areas because the logic was, look, I know that when times get tough, first thing people turn off is their marketing. It's the wrong thing to do, but a lot of people do that because they think, oh, well, we won't, that's non-essential spend, which is not right. It's absolutely ridiculous, but they think that. So that means that actually your marketing budget goes further because you're marketing in a less competitive world. So you're getting more leads in. So
yeah, okay. Oh, that's really interesting. Really interesting that you've had that sort of that upturn. I'm not sure that the image of client constipation is exactly what we want in a bring your own lunch session. But I'm not sure. Hopefully people are still feeling hungry. Joe, can I pull that across to you? How have you found? How have clients responded, and I suppose and what's it been like working with people as well?
Yeah, that's been difficult. So things are coming back around now, but for the first month, we didn't really know where anyone was. Some people were working from home, some people weren't. So that was quite difficult. And I'm still having far more email conversations with people, and LinkedIn's really useful. A lot of the time I'd be on the phone, but a lot of offices just haven't got their their systems transferred. So it'd be quite interesting to see what happens with that in the next coming months, and what people are going to do. Some people have been putting mobile numbers on their signatures, but not all of them. We had, so we also deliver workshops. So one of the main things that was an immediate sort of direct response was that the workshops were cancelled. So, and these would obviously be in face-to-face. And we had some that were due as part of a project that needed to be delivered. So we quickly changed those so that they can now be online. So we've changed our format. And actually, that was something we were thinking about doing anyway. It just meant we had to speed things up. And actually, that will give us a bit more flexibility, because a lot of our clients, if we had to go to Leeds, then that's like travel overnight to get there in the morning. So we can actually help to keep the costs down a little bit more doing it that way as well. And we've also been able to offer one-to-one mentoring, which the cost of it before we wouldn't have been able to do, whereas now we can sell like 3 1-hour slots and work really specifically with people. So yeah, there's definitely been some benefits from that side.
So does that mean that you started to be able to sell what you're doing in a slightly different way? So for instance, with the mentoring, that's something you couldn't necessarily do before, but people don't necessarily expect you to be in the same room anymore, so you can start to do these things?
Yeah, absolutely. And before, to make it economical for the client, they needed to have around sort of 8 to, well, at least 8 minimum, but ideally 10 to 12 people in a workshop. Because if you're all sat in a room together as well, and there's sort of 4 people, it can sometimes be a little bit stale, especially if you work with them anyway. Whereas now I think everyone's got so used to the Zoom culture that we can deliver a workshop for 4 people, or we can do one for 25 people, which would have been a bit of a struggle before, but now there's people in breakout rooms. It can be easily managed. So that's actually been quite a positive for us. And we've had some quite good feedback from clients with those that we've worked with so far.
Darren, is that something which has been sort of echoed by you? Is that interesting in terms of that new way of working, but also the contact and communication that you've had with clients, and what's that mean in terms of pushing things forward?
It's been really interesting for me personally. I think the one thing that I've noticed is that I've been able to almost rebuild my relationships with clients again, where historically we would have had 2 or 3 client services dealing with the issues in between, and down to us, kind of majority of our work comes from food and hospitality, and going back to Richard's comment is that literally kind of cut off completely end of March, and they just didn't know what was going to happen and when they could open. Thankfully, and this is a bit of a lesson learned from our point of view, is that we moved into the financial services world with a little bit more aggression sort of mid part of last year, and those were the guys that actually kept us ticking over. But we really struggled to kind of deal with the kind of director level kind of decision maker when it came down to the day-to-day stuff with creative, and actually what's happened is that whole kind of barrier of people has been kind of removed. So I've been dealing with kind of the marketing director of Hall & Woodhouse now, where we've been really trying to build a relationship with them for about a year and a half, and we're doing one-to-one Zoom calls 2-3 times a week. So it's been a real eye-opener for us to be able to kind of get in front of that senior level person and communicate in a way with them that they can actually really appreciate what we do and what we deliver as an agency. And kind of off the back of that is that actually they've had a lot of time to reflect on what their offering is, and that's gone across all of our client base that we've been working with, kind of through COVID, is that, as I'm sure everybody is on this Zoom call, is that everybody's had a lot of time to reflect about A, what they want in life, B, what they want for their business, or what the offering is for the company that they work for. And the conversations and the brief that we've been getting through COVID and actually are starting to become live now are really focused and really driven, and there is a real appetite to kind of turn that marketing tap on again. And the good clients are the ones that actually increase their spend, as Rich said. It's kind of put it on a level playing field, and I think marketing became almost too easy kind of the back end and kind of early part of last year, and I think everybody's now realised that they have to work a little bit harder to get business through the door, which in turn means hopefully people will be engaging with businesses like all of ours, and actually putting their best self in front of the window and making sure that their clients, potential clients or future clients, know who they are, what they offer. But actually I think everyone's much more conscious of how people are feeling now, and we've been preaching it for a long time in brand communications, that if you're not talking emotively about what you're delivering as a service or a product, you're not going to get that hook, and you're not going to get that engagement. So.
Can I just pick up on that thing that you were saying about being able to speak to decision makers more easily? Do you find that has improved, that has been a change, and is that putting a bit of grease on the wheels, as it were, to speed things along and make things smoother?
100%. We would have been dealing with 2 or 3 marketing managers at Hall & Woodhouse, for instance, and we would do concepting for them. We would have a brief from them. It would then go to their manager, which sometimes it goes through smoothly. Everyone loves it most of the time, but sometimes you have these little kind of creative challenges that we have to deal with, where the briefs we get are from one person, but actually someone else wants to deliver something completely different. And where we're now dealing direct with the kind of marketing director, who's very clear about actually what it is they're trying to deliver, it's just taking that whole layer of pain away. And we're getting the brief direct from her, we're presenting back to her, which is another challenge. When you're presenting creative via a Zoom call or Teams call, it's really hard to pick up on the emotion, and anyone who's done it, it's tough. We thrive off energy and thrive off engagement, and it's tough to do that over a Zoom call because people are quite conscious of interrupting what you're saying. So I will actually now present an idea, give it 30 seconds of kind of quiet time, and then actually ask for feedback on that slide in particular, just to get the conversation going, because people don't want to jump in and interrupt what you're doing. So,
Rich, can I take that to you, because you're saying that you're working with 130 odd countries. That in terms of how you deal with the clients in there, are you used to working in this way already, or do you traditionally jump on the plane and go and see people face to face?
No, we'd be jumping on a lot of planes. We tend to. So, we're used to dealing certainly with our US clients in this format. So it's quite kind of standard for us. We tend to we'll go out there a couple of times a year to do face-to-face stuff, but we're kind of used to the pitfalls of doing it this way. Doesn't work so well with new clients. Interestingly, we had one of the clients that we were in a sales process with that started in around January. We'd just got to the point of where we were down to the kind of last three to pitch, and what they had stipulated was that was going to be a face-to-face thing, which was kind of fine. So we were going to fly out, but then when we couldn't, it didn't hamstring us, because they were like, well, no one can. So we're having to do this all remotely, whether the agency that's pitching is 2 doors down or 2,000 miles away. It doesn't make any difference, because we're doing it all via a Zoom call. So it certainly has made the world smaller, if you like. The fact that the entire world has had to get used to remote working all at once, all in a very enforced way, does mean...
sorry to cut across you, but I think that's a really interesting point, and that's sort of something which has underpinned some of the ideas behind this. Is that something that you think clients will want to keep? Does that present new opportunities for us to try and broaden our reach in terms of going to clients and not being worried about the fact that we can't get on the plane, or we don't feel that distance is such this barrier that we had before?
I would almost certainly think that the biggest other than the economic impact that all this is going to have, the biggest long-term change to working practices is that everybody's going to have their head around the fact that remote working works. Just as somebody who's always been, to be honest, fairly cynical about it, we've had remote working in the past. We've done it as a baby steps kind of thing, and as soon as we've done this and it's happened to us, it was literally overnight. We all just worked remotely, and there's benefits to it. There are downsides to it as well. I think from an efficiency point of view, everything's much more efficient. From a creative point of view, you lose out on that serendipity of the chat you have in the kitchen where you come up with that thing. That's something that needs to be bridged. But in terms of, I've not spoken to anybody really that doesn't think that remote working and people working outside of the office and having to do things like this is going away anytime soon, because there's just too much upside to it, really. So Joe, I do think that going forwards, that you can cast your net a lot wider without having to worry so much about the fact that you're not. The idea of saying, well, I want to work with an agency that's in London because I want to be able to pop round there and look at the creative in the eye. I just don't see that as being a thing anymore.
You've got kind of a fairly widespread client base already. Maybe Joe, if I could ask you that, do you see that there has been a change in the response to the people who you've been talking to? Because I know you've got some local customers, but you've also got more national customers. What's been the response from them so far? And do you as a company start to feel like actually we can be a bit more ambitious? We can go further afield?
Yeah, I think we always, the UK, we've worked up as far as Scotland. I think the main difference is now is that where I would have got on the train to go and have an hour's meeting in London with somebody who we wanted to build that relationship with, now I don't think, as Rich was saying, I don't think it would be a problem if we said, oh, can we just do it via Zoom? I think people would be more inclined to have that. So I think yeah, I can definitely see that working. And we have looked at international companies before, because obviously, if not that we're a translation service, but if people wanted to advertise products or a service in the UK, obviously they don't understand like the colloquialisms, or, you know, it would be very much sort of business language rather than having like a nice sort of easy something to read that everyone could understand over here. So we could certainly do that, but in the past that's been more difficult because we just haven't had sort of the access to people doing that. Whereas I think that perhaps that might actually be something that we could look at. You know, obviously there are other things to look at, but from a personal perspective, then yeah, we could do that via Zoom. I don't think it would be so much of a problem.
Okay.
So yeah, we have had a bit to think about that.
I mean, I think the one thing which strikes me in all of this is how do you manage all of that effectively? And if you are used to having more of a face-to-face relationship, and in terms of the process around sign off and getting people on board and building that trust and those relationships, Darren, is that sort of something which there are things that you can pick on that you've done before which have worked really, really well in that you feel actually we could start building on that, and what had become maybe not the run of the mill has become a lot more accepted now? It's kind of specific processes that you could recommend.
Yeah, I think it just takes away that stigma of you know, clients expecting you to come for a meeting where, you know, it was a given. And to be honest with you, I think obviously once we're allowed to, I think that initial meeting where you're building that relationship, you know, would happen. But as Joe said, actually after that, you know, I spend more time on a train going to London than I do working. You know, and quite often I'm doing 1 or 2 meetings, and you know, it's going to be much more efficient and much more accepted. I think moving forward, and that whole, if they really cared about me, they'd be in our meeting room having a conversation. You know, I think that's gone. I think genuinely that's gone. But actually, what it also has done is actually made people a lot more aware of how much time they're spending in meetings. You know, during lockdown, you know, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way, is that, you know, I felt like I've literally gone from one video call to another, to another, to another. You know, it was the kind of the most surreal, kind of real reality TV show that, you know, I wish I'd filmed it all, if I'm honest. It would have been quite interesting to document. But yeah, it's much more accepted now, and I think moving forward, you know, we would drive to Blandford 2-3 times a week to have meetings at Hall and Woodhouse. You know, we're doing those meetings in 15-20 minutes now. You know, and likewise with our clients in Manchester, Virgin Media. You know, it's done. We log in, we do it, we book an hour slot. That, you know, that's done. So it's much more efficient and much more accepted, and I think it will be the norm moving forward. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's been interesting, that whole sequence of meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, but I'm not sure that probably all of them, you know, had an enjoyable competition in the background. And I'll just take a sip of my tea from this china mug. So can I turn around to I'm just going to pick on Paul, actually. I can see you're there, Paul. Can I, if I unmute you, because I know this is an area that you've been thinking about, and just thinking kind of from your point of view, because you focus very much on the local client base, people that you can reach. What's been the impact on you in terms of how you're seeing the new opportunities?
Hi, afternoon everyone. It's been can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
It's been pretty much a step change, really, because we realised that, as Darren says, it's entirely possible to have these meetings with people remotely. We cut out all the travelling. It is far more efficient. And we just needed to change some of our ideas and some of our processes. And actually we have carried on acquiring new customers and servicing our existing customers. So we discovered that we can do business really quite efficiently remotely. And then that led us to think, hang on a sec. Up until now, we thought of ourselves as a regional business. In fact, when we described what our perfect customer looked like, we described them as being within 90 minutes of our office, because it was all about being able to have those meetings. We considered those meetings essential. And so when we said, well, actually, we need to rethink stuff, because if we can do business without meetings, what does that mean? And what that means is that actually we could consider selling outside of our region. We can be national, we could be international, we could be global. And we talked about how, you know, like some of the guys at like Rich, it's possible to recruit people around the world, and actually we have a different vision of what we are. I think what we need to do is we decided we need to narrow down our focus and become even more specialist. As a business, we've been on a journey from dealing with everybody to deciding that we like B2B much better than B2C, to deciding within B2B that there are certain sectors that we want to focus on. And now we're saying there is one sector we want to focus on. We want to become really, really specialist, really niche down, and go national and then international and then global in that particular space. And so it's been a dramatic rethink of our entire business model based on this realization that we're no longer regional. And we just need to be really focused and really focused and lose all our previous misconceptions and readapt and start selling on a bigger stage.
And is that point about being really, really focused? Because if you want to move on a bigger stage, it's easier for people to, if people can pigeonhole you, they understand what it is that you're going to be able to do. And if you go in and you try and offer too broad a service, actually that gets a bit confusing and you get lost in all the chatter. Is it that if you're specialist, it's very clear about who you are, what you do, and people know, okay, you're the people who do this, and that's why I'm going to go to you.
Absolutely, you have to get really niche, and so I think that's a possible future for all of our businesses. It was a time, Intergage has been around since the year 2000, so we were kind of building websites and growing a website business, selling generically websites generically to everybody 20 years ago, and we were quite a big fish in quite an empty pond back then, but there's loads of fish in this pond, and it is teeming. And so what happens is it's really difficult to differentiate yourself from in that pond. It's kind of that whole red ocean thing. Maybe it's a red ocean rather than a pond. And we've all been struggling with that as agencies that build websites. We've all needed to work on differentiation. It's just that you have to take that into the next level if you're going to operate on a national stage. I think you have to have the niche within the sector, or the niche within the niche within the sector, and really decide who your best customer is, and focus entirely on them. We found the more that we've niched down, the less general we've become, the more efficient selling has become, because our portfolio is more relevant to the next customer. We get to reuse our IP and our thinking. We don't have to start with a blank sheet of paper every time. The lessons that we've learned from doing one job are directly relevant to the next job. We're not having to go, oh, that's interesting. Let's file all those lessons, put them on the shelf, and see if one day they're interesting again. Every experience is directly relevant to the next customer. And it's, that is, without shadow of a doubt, a significant change, and it just keeps getting better the more we niche down.
So that's really, really interesting. And just because you referenced the red ocean, I'm not sure if everyone knows about it, but if you have a look at the Blue Ocean Strategies, it's a really interesting book if you haven't come across it before. And just looking about how do you start to how do they describe it? You've got to create a market, an uncontested marketplace. So essentially, kind of red oceans is where we're all in there. There's a big feeding frenzy, and there's a lot of blood and water. Whereas if there are some companies, and the examples you get in the book are just really good examples of how you start to develop specialisms and uniqueness and start to create markets that don't necessarily exist yet. And I think that the opportunity that the past few months has shown is if you start to factor some of that in, that becomes a very interesting way of, it's not just about the value proposition, but the way that you do business and how you can do business. That may start to create a new blue ocean opportunity in that way. I mean, picking up on that point about specialisms. So just, and again, to encourage you, please, if you've got any questions, any thoughts, please write them down in the chat and I'm pick those up. But Joe, Rich, Darren, any thoughts in terms of that area of specialism? Have you started to do that at all?
Sorry, go on. You go, Rich. Go.
I mean, I just echo what Paul said entirely, and I don't. That's not necessarily. We're very special. Well, we like to think we're very specialist in our particular area, which is that we have a very particular mission, and we stick to that kind of as religiously as we can. And I think that isn't something that we've done because of the past 3 months or the crisis that happened. But I think because we did that, and because we had our and it feeds through the whole business from our marketing all the way through to our recruitment strategy, is all based around the same that same single-minded kind of objective. That just put us in a really strong place, and that's why we've managed to navigate this and do so well out the back of it. I think it's just such good business sense to do that. And if you do let it permeate everything, just echoing really all the stuff that Paul said, that you just become very, very good at what you do. And then with the fact that the market's now opened up, so you've got a potentially global market that you can access. If you're the guys that do that in that market, you've suddenly got a great big market. So it's absolutely key to running any kind of organisation.
Are there any countries where you found that easier to do than others?
If we're fishing for new countries, and I'll have to think. I mean,
well, we can come back to you on that one. That's okay. I may be stretching a point here. Sorry, Darren. Sorry, you were going to say something as well.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. We've kind of gone in a bit of a polar opposite direction. We've shown my age now, but we've been through 2 recessions as a business, and you know we've always classed ourselves as, and there is no better term, hence us being brand communications, is that we're a full service agency. We've got presses as part of our business. Digital. We do a lot of office installations, so we'll communicate the brands externally to their clients, but we'll also communicate their brand internally within their office environment. And I think the learning that we've had out of the last 2 recessions is that marketing departments have been slashed in half potentially, if not more, and you have people left there doing 2-3 people's jobs. And we've always grown out the back of being that agency that the client can phone up and ask for flip-flops to a complete office installation. And with our experience and the team that we've got here and our production facilities, both online with digital animation, but also with delivering big office installations, we've become an extension of clients' marketing departments, and they're not afraid to pick up the phone and say, can you get me this? And I need it in this size, this color, and I need 1 million of them on Monday. And 9 times out of 10, we will have that resource because we've built up a really great, a team and set of equipment here, but mostly, our supplier kind of channel is great, and we rely on them massively.
So there's a sense of kind of making yourself be indispensable.
Yeah, and especially when they're time poor, and they are going to be more and more so. Marketing managers and marketing teams are going to be even more time poor now, and because they're not going to have 2 or 3 people around them to do what they used to do, and they want to be able to just pick up a project. Thankfully we've built a lot of kind of good reputation and honesty really, and they trust us to deliver, and thank God. I'll touch some wood somewhere. We've managed to do that for a long time, and whether it's delivering a complete office installation to delivering flip-flops of Virgin Media for one of their festivals, it's a really wild and world that we live in really, but it's good fun. Yeah, so.
I mean, Joe, kind of as writers and content creators, you must have a pretty intimate knowledge. You must have to develop a pretty intimate knowledge of the people who you're working with. Do you echo kind of what Darren's saying at all?
Yeah, I was just going to chip in about that sort of specialist side. So we look after, most of our clients are within professional services. So then that could be like B2B, where it's like lawyers, but then that also extends to universities. So we do a lot of work with universities. And we've thought about it, should we just specialise in that? But actually, that would have been a really dangerous thing to do, because at the minute, they've obviously, there's really bad issues with funding. A lot of their projects have gone on hold. So it was good that we sort of kept that wider remit within professional services. And our danger is that if we just looked at tone of voice, or we only did headline writing, we wouldn't be able to grow as a business. Whereas there are certain things that we don't do, we say, that's not really us. Or if it's part of a bigger project, then like an in-house or a full agency would be able to cover it. So there are certain things that we don't get involved with, but I think we are specialist, but then there is still that flexibility for us as a smaller agency to be able to grow and to work with similar.
I think that's a really good point. You've got to be slightly careful about sort of being too specialised and cutting yourself out in the future. But we had a question from Harry. So has anyone developed methods for making their video calls feel more like an in-person meeting? Rich, you're doing a lot of that. Have you developed any strategies over the years?
Not not purposefully, I must admit, not that I've actually sort of considered. I think that it's I think it's just you just have to act naturally and be yourself and try to relax into it and not feel that it's just not, it's not a formal thing, right? It's just, you just got to act as though you're in the room with a person. I think that's all I can, the only advice I can really get yourself a decent internet connection. That's the
Okay.
main thing, because that's the main barrier to all of this stuff is go, but what, pardon, you're not on, and remember to unmute yourself. That would be my tips, but you know, that's kind of standard stuff.
I think it's quite nice actually seeing a human side of the clients, because you're talking to them inside their houses, quite often in an office or in the kitchen. You know, children are coming in, dogs are barking, and it takes away that whole kind of corporate element of a you know, a meeting, and it's actually just laid bare on a table. You've got two people who know what they're doing. One knows what they want, the other one knows what to do, and it's just an open and honest conversation, and that whole, you know, that whole layer of a kind of corporate business actually is really lovely that it's gone, because, you know, I've never been, you know, you guys that know me will know my personality. You know, I tend to be who I am and deliver business in a way that is very personable, sometimes humorous and maybe sometimes inappropriate, but you know, it's just actually real. And I think that's the one thing that we've really loved, you know, with we picked up 2 huge clients in the last 2 months, and had, you know, kind of Zoom calls every other day with these people, and the things we've seen gone on, and you know, it's been amazing, you know, from you know, mugs of tea being dropped on green carpets to, you know, kind of, I mean, I probably could, it'd be another question actually, you know, I must have had about 7 Amazon deliveries of various calls, you know, in the last probably 10 days. Sorry, I've got to leave the call, I've got an Amazon delivery. So it's quite interesting, because you're doing things that you would never do in a conference room or a meeting room with clients, and I kind of like that, you know, it's just real and human to human conversation, which I think is massively important in our world. So.
Well, I think it also touches on another point which is interesting, especially if you're thinking about trying to broaden out and reach a wider market, is trying to get inside the client perspective. So from, you know, there's always that question of we tend to think about ourselves and our own businesses and what we want, but actually that's only really achievable if we really understand the value proposition and what it is that people want from us. So have you built up any knowledge or better insight as a result of why should somebody, if we're trying to go more broadly, why should somebody come with me rather than going with somebody who might be more local to them? And you've touched upon the point of being more specialist or being experts in areas. Is there anything more and beyond that you think is really relevant?
I mean, so from a personal point of view, the specialism thing really helps. And then sort of old money, the specialism thing gets you through the door, and then people buy into people, right? So they get the case studies, they get what you can do, and then it's really down to that relationship you have with them. So it's just more building that relationship in as good a way as you can. So it's not just reliant on the fact you have the call. You've got to look at the different touch points you can have with them, and that's really, I think, where kind of social media was always kind of important, but it's even more important now that you're engaging with people as much as you possibly can on those channels, because, you know, you're not going to get to go to that event that they might be at, unless it's a virtual event like this, but you do get to kind of engage with clients that way. So it's looking for those different ways that you can create touch points with people to just build that relationship with them and have that personal relationship, other than just a meeting where you're on a Zoom call, you know. Yeah. But I think it's just even more heightened now, that ability to do that digitally.
Okay. We're going to jump across into the breakout rooms in a second. Darren, Joe, anything to add to that?
Not really. No. I installed a great little app called Snapcam that lets you be a cowboy, an Indian, a construction worker, literally virtually on your phone, which is quite humorous at times. So if you find, exactly, there it is, Anthony, you know.
There you go.
So if you find the right moment in a presentation and it's not going so well, then just become somebody you're not.
Yeah, I think this one turns me into John McEnroe by the looks of it.
Slightly unnerving, Anthony. Slightly.
Yeah, okay, I'll come back.
Darren, you just named most of YMCA then.
I did there, consciously as well. Consciously.
Do you do the dance? Is that what you do?
Which one do you think I am?
That's not for me to say, mate.
No, sorry.
Right. So we're going to jump across, and so sorry, Christopher, I see you've just put a question in, but maybe you can carry that across and bring it into the breakout talk with the group. So in a second, you're going to have a little pop-up. You're going to be invited to join the group. If you can just click on join. Oh, actually, before we do that, I want to ask you all really quickly to go into the chat. I'm going to count to 3, and you've got to type in the number of how many countries we've mentioned, and then we'll have a look through during the breakouts, and then we'll come back with a winner. So if you can be ready with your answer, and we'll all put it at the same time, after 3, 1, 2, 3, go.